You want to go into elbow flexion of 90 degrees. You're then going to go into external rotation by taking a block or a small mat and placing it under your hand. And then you want to go into maximum extension of the wrist. Then from this position right over here, what you want to do is a
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to be your own therapist by demonstrating the top 5 myofascial stretching exercises for shoulder pain relief. And more specifically, we're going to be focusing on scapulohumeral rhythm and how to correct an early setting phase. Before I get on with the exercises, I want to do a quick recap of what exactly the scapulohumeral rhythm is. And in order to do that, I'm going to need the help of my good friend, Johnny Bone. So Johnny, get over here, show your big bony blades to the camera. This right over here is your scapula, and this right over here is your humerus. And scapulohumeral rhythm is essentially how your scapula and humerus interact with one another. Ideally, when you end up going into abduction of the humerus, what's going to happen is your inferior angle or your scapula, it is going to go into upward rotation, meaning the inferior angle is going to move away and up from the midline or the spine. Another thing that's going to happen is it's going to be coupled with a posterior tilt or a retroversion or a downward tilt of the scapula. So what you can do to measure this is you would place a finger right over there, and then with regard to the actual phases of scapulohumeral rhythm, there are 3. The first phase is going to be referred to as the setting phase, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So you would take your finger, place it at the inferior angle, have your client go into active abduction, meaning they are doing the abduction, you're not passively moving the arm for them. And then as soon as you notice that the scapula starts to move away from your finger, you would tell them to freeze and stop right there. Then you could take something like a goniometer, take it at the glenohumeral joint, and then you would want to measure the degree at the humerus. If it is less than 30 degrees, that means they have an early setting phase. And if you don't correct it, this can lead to things like shoulder pain, mid-back pain, and neck pain. So you would want to address it immediately. And one of the ways that we can correct this is, number one, we would want to do some strengthening exercises for the muscles that are responsible for downwardly rotating the scapula, and also the muscles that are responsible for upwardly tilting the scapula. We did those exercises a couple days ago. I'm going to include a link right up over here to the top 5 strengthening exercises for shoulder pain relief for an early setting phase. Then once you've done those exercises, the myofascial stretching exercises would be a terrific complement. And what we would want to do for the myofascial stretching is we would want to do some myofascial stretching exercises for the muscles that are responsible for upwardly rotating the scapula, and also the muscles that are going to be responsible for downwardly tilting the scapula. That's what we're going to be doing today, and without further ado, here are the top 5 myofascial stretching exercises for shoulder pain relief. The first myofascial stretching exercise for shoulder pain relief to correct an early setting phase is going to be for the superior trapezius. For this one, we're going to be in a kneeling position, and the first thing we want to do once we're in that position is we're going to pin our scapula down to the ground. So the side that we're stretching, that's the side we're pinning. Then from this position, the contralateral arm, so the non-working arm, what we want to do is elevate the elbow. We're raising the elbow to fix the shoulder. Then from this position, we want our nose down toward the ground, and we're going to create axial extension by tucking in our chin and pushing the crown of the head away from the body. Then, with the working arm, the principle of action, we want to project our arm caudally. So we're going down on a diagonal and pressing our arm toward the ground. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the superior trapezius. Next, the second myofascial stretching exercise for shoulder pain relief to correct an early setting phase is going to be for the inferior trapezius. This one's going to be very similar. The only difference is we're playing around with the positioning of the arm to respect the direction, the fiber direction of the inferior trapezius. And the other thing is there's going to be a little bit of a component of flexion in the cervical spine, specifically lateral flexion. But for this one, once again, we are in a kneeling position. And once again, we're pinning the scapula of the working side down toward the ground. Then with the contralateral arm, once again, we're raising up the elbow to stabilize the shoulder. Then from this position right over here, what we want to do is we are going to go into lateral flexion of the cervical spine, and we're going to do contralateral flexion, so we're bending away. Then what we want to do is take our arm and we're going to press it cephalically. So we're going to go on an upward diagonal to respect the fibers of the inferior trapezius. We got retroversion of the pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, contralateral flexion of the thoracic of the cervical spine, and then we're pressing on a diagonal. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the inferior fibers of the trapezius. Next, the third myofascial stretching exercise for shoulder pain relief to correct an early setting phase is going to be for the serratus anterior. For the serratus anterior, we are going to be in a quadruped position, so your forepoint, your hands and knees. Then
For the actual exercise, we're going to go into retroversion of the pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin is tucked in, crown of the head away, eyes looking down between our thighs to put the dura mater under tension. And then if we want to target the middle fibers, all we want to do is have our shoulders stacked up right above our elbows. So it's perpendicular to the ground. And all we're going to do is depress our sternum. So we want to press our chest down toward the ground and really sink into it and get into as much retraction of the scapula as possible. And this is for the middle fibers. If we want to target the superior fibers are also going to be responsible for elevation. So we would want to go into depression of the scapula. And we're, in terms of the hand position, we're going to go above 90 degrees. So our wrists are going to be above the level of the actual shoulder joint. From this one right over here, we're going to walk our hands forward, and then we're going to sink in, and we are going to depress our scapula. So imagine you're trying to bring your scapula down into your pockets. Everything else is the same. Retroversion, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown of the head away, eyes looking down forward to put the dura mater under tension. Sink in, go into depression of the scapula, and this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the superior fibers. And then, if we want to target the inferior fibers, because the inferior fibers are also responsible for depression, we would want to go into elevation of the scapula. So we're going to take our arms, we're going to bring them below 90 degrees, so the wrists are below the level of the shoulders, and then we're going to do a bit of a shoulder shrug. So everything else is the same. Retroversion of the pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown of the head away, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension. Then, with the arms, we want to go ahead and take our arms below 90 degrees. If you find this uncomfortable, you could also turn your arms out to the side if it hurts your wrist. And then all you would want to do is you're going to sink in, and then you're going to shrug up to get as much stretch in the inferior fibers. And that is the myofascial stretching exercise for the serratus anterior, for the middle fibers, superior fibers, and the inferior fibers. Next, the fourth myofascial stretching exercise for shoulder pain relief to correct an early setting phase is going to be for the teres major. For the teres major, you're going to be in a prone position, meaning you're laying down on your stomach. Then, from this position right over here, what you want to do, your legs are resting on the floor, you got retroversion of the pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin is tucked in. With your arm, you want to go into abduction of just above 90 degrees, and then at the elbow, you want to go into elbow flexion of 90 degrees. You're then going to go into external rotation by taking a block or a small mat and placing it under your hand, and then you want to go into maximum extension of the wrist. Then, from this position right over here, what you want to do is a contralateral rotation of the cervical spine. So you're rotating away from the side that you're stretching by pinning the ear down toward the ground. And then this right over here, if it's still not a little challenging for you, what you can do is with the opposite arm, you can press yourself up and allow yourself to roll a little bit more onto your shoulder. But this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the teres major. Next, the fifth and final myofascial stretching exercise for shoulder pain relief to correct an early setting phase is going to be for the latissimus dorsi muscle. For this exercise, we're going to be in a half kneeling position. Half kneeling meaning the bottom of a lunge. And for this exercise right over here, the knee that's on the floor is going to be the side that we are actually stretching. What you want to do, this is just the general stretch right now. The non-working arm, you're going to go into extension of elbow and wrist and place it on the inside of the thigh. Then, retroversion of the pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown of the head away, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension. With the ipsilateral arm, so the arm of the side that we're stretching, we're going to go into maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation of the shoulder. We're then going to project our palm forward, and we want to do a lateral translation of the thoracic rib cage. So the rib cage, we want to press it away. And this is the general stretch for the latissimus dorsi muscle. Then, if we want to target the distal fibers, a couple minor modifications. We're going to take the non-working arm, so the contralateral arm, rest it on the thigh. Then with the ipsilateral arm, we want to go on a downward diagonal. So we're going to go into less flexion, and we're going to go into adduction, and then we're going to press on a downward diagonal. Everything else is the same. Retroversion, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown of the head up, eyes looking down the floor to put the dura mater under tension. We got a lateral projection of the thoracic rib cage, and then we're pressing down on a diagonal, and this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the distal fibers. Then last, if we want to target the proximal fibers, everything is the same. Retroversion, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown of the head up, eyes looking down the floor to put the dura mater under tension. With the working arm, or with the rib cage, we're doing a lateral translation of the rib cage. With the working arm, we want to go up and over our head, and then with the contralateral arm, we're going to reach up and over the elbow, and then we're going to pull everything across, and then we're also going to do a contralateral side bend of the cervical spine. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the proximal fibers of the latissimus dorsi muscle.
And there you have it. Those were the top 5 myofascial stretching exercises for shoulder pain relief to correct an early setting phase. If you have issues with regard to shoulder pain, neck pain, mid-back pain, go ahead and give those exercises a try because they will be absolutely terrific at helping with any of those issues. And if you have given them a try, drop your comments down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys thought. In terms of the actual stretches, what you would want to do in terms of the sets and duration, you would want to do 3 sets of 30-second holds for each of the different myofascial stretching exercises, and you could do them every single day. The reason we're doing them every single day is because whenever we're trying to elicit a postural change, most important thing is going to be accumulating time under tension. So if you only do them once a week or once a month, you're not going to see the true benefits. So 3 sets of 30 seconds every single day. And then on Monday at 2:00 p.m., I am going to be demonstrating the top 5 ELDOA exercises for shoulder pain relief for an early setting phase. If you have some issue with regard to the nerves that end up sending the signals to the muscles that are responsible for upwardly rotating the scapula, and basically, that's going to be what we're going to be doing on Monday, but be out on the lookout for that Monday at 2 p.m. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to keep making these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.